Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me for this Training Friday, as he does every other Friday, is Tom Walls of the Firearms Academy of Seattle. Tom, thanks for joining us today, man.
Always a pleasure, Paul. Good to see you again.
So, today on Training Friday, we kind of picked out the topic. Actually, we picked out the topic because it was a backup topic for last time we were together in case we ran out of time. And we never ran out of time last week. We used open carry versus concealed carry, took up the entire time we had. But as a backup, we had how are you going to choose your trainer and what do you do to prepare for training? So let's start with the first one. Hopefully everybody who's watched this has gotten some training, but if they haven't, and everybody, I honestly believe everybody, it should not be mandated. There should be no law saying you need training, but everybody does need it. I just don't believe it should be a law. If somebody's just decided they're going to get training, there are a lot of trainers out there, Tom. How do they choose what trainer is right for them?
I think that's an excellent question. First off, let me agree with you about mandated training. I am obviously a fan of training. I'm a training junkie. In addition to, let me change that camera just a little bit. In addition to what I do, I enjoy learning more about stuff. I don't think it should be mandatory. I think it should be optional. There we go. Look at my messy desk. I wish that the states would encourage training, because you can't mandate it. I mean, that's like a poll tax. You have to pay money, and not everybody's got the luxury of time or the resources to spend money in travel and tuition and ammunition. If they could make it somehow easier, give a tax break or cut back on your renewal fee or something like that. South Dakota just did some really cool stuff.
Yes.
With permits, and you can certainly talk about that if you want to at some time. So one thing you always need to do is to understand what it is you want to get. What are you looking for? What kind of training are you seeking? If you're doing it for home defense, a hunting course isn't going to do you a great deal of good, vice versa. Once you've defined what you're looking for, the easiest and most common way is to use the miracle of the internet. We get a lot of our business at FAS through the internet and through word of mouth. I like the internet because it provides you with a bit more information than your buddy saying, oh yeah, and so-and-so was the best course I've ever had. Well, what if he's only taken one course? There's really no point of comparison. And I'm glad, buddy enjoyed class. On the internet, you've got some things, a good website, and all the major schools have them, and a lot of the traveling instructors have them as well. Look for some stuff. Look for credentials. With whom have they trained? Even if you don't know the names, it's a thread. Rather than, well, I've been shooting since I was 6 years old. I've been shooting since I was 6 years old. Mm-hmm. I truly did not learn anything beyond gun safety, and I learned gun safety at my father's knee and occasionally across his knee when I would break a rule. I was safe, but I wasn't really competent. I did not know what I did not know. I did not know what was out there until I took professional training 20, 25 years ago and started getting serious with it. So look for the credentials. NRA credentials are, in my opinion, kind of like McDonald's. The quality of instruction has improved. That said, I love the NRA. I'm a life member. I'm a certified NRA instructor. And their program is readily available, and you're not going to go wrong. But look for other things. What experience does that instructor have? Did they mentor with anyone? Do they have other credentials? When we give our classes, and other instructors I've been to, the really good schools do this also, they introduce themselves. They give a quick bio. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's on the internet. They'll say, here's a picture of, Joe Blow when he was and done these things, and you can get a feel for where they come from. If somebody only has military experience, you have to wonder if what they do is applicable to home defense. If you've got somebody that's been an extensive hunting experience, are they applicable to church security? So look for those sorts of things. Another thing that I really like to do is to look for videos that they've got. Do a little YouTube research. Look at their gun handling if it's competent. Look at the people around them, and not so much for what they're teaching on that particular video, because they can pick that and choose that and make you see what they want you to see. Are you looking at a self-defense home carry class surrounded by young men all in their 20s with chest plates and morale patches and hip holsters and kill them all, let God sort of out plastered on their guns? Or are you looking for people like you? Okay, look for that. Look and see, are there any females in an entry-level class? Because that's going to go back to other people making that decision too. That sort of stuff really, really helps. I look at the instructor's gear. Is it all tricked out, or is it the kind of stuff that other students would have that I would have learning about this particular thing? And that's your basic research. Check out the instructor and see what they're about. One red flag would be testimonials. I don't know who the person is giving the testimonial, and if that's all they have, to me, that's not a deal killer, but that's a question.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, where they've been. Something else to look for, and we don't often think of this, we think of it in the business side. What are their cancellation and refund rules? Say, God forbid, that I break my leg 3 days before class. Hey, there's no way I can come to class. Can I get a refund? They should have those posted. If it's something unavoidable, most instructors, I think pretty much all really good instructors, will work with you. Say, look, I'll give you a credit. Because you need to understand this is a business for us. If we have a guest instructor coming in, you've got, we'll pay at the end, or whatever the payment deal is. That's a spot that you're taking up, even if you haven't paid for it. And if we can't fill it in the last couple of days, the last minute, literally, that's income for us that we've had trouble with. So most schools are now going to some type of you have to cancel within X number of weeks, or there's a minimum deposit that's not refundable. Not saying if it's right, wrong, good, or bad, but you need to be aware of it ahead of time to avoid any unpleasant discoveries.
That is a problem I had early when I used to host classes here in Sioux Falls for traveling instructors. They would come to Sioux Falls and teach. And I did that for a number of years, and that I learned very early that just because somebody says they're going to show up doesn't necessarily mean they're going to show up, or once they get there doesn't mean that they're going to have the money for the class. So if you're going to go to training, especially a national level training, somebody like a Masada Yube, somebody like a Tom Givens,
yes,
you're going to expect to pay in advance for the full class, and if it's somebody like if it's Masada Yube, if it's Tom Givens, if it's somebody like that, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, it is. And understand that you were denying somebody else a chance if you drop and leave the hosting range or the instructor with an open spot that they can't fill. I know sometimes life happens, flights get delayed, people break legs, grandmas die, all those nasty things life likes to give us.
Yeah.
But when you can, and understand they'll work with you. Any school that's got a website up will probably have that. So look through their website. Pictures, all that stuff. Let me check my notes here because I had some really cool ideas.
While you're doing that, I want to get a comment in here. I think you may know this commenter. This guy named Marty Hayes commented, said, Tom skipped fishing to do this show. He's dedicated.
Hey, Marty. Yes, I did. Marty Hayes, the founder, now retired, of the Firearms Academy of Seattle, my former boss, my mentor, my good friend, my fishing buddy, also the president of the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. So yeah, Marty, I really did have to do the podcast, but I'm doing God's work. So
I want to go off on a little bit of a tangent, and I've never personally seen this. I've heard, I've seen it on video. I've seen cases on video where if I'd have been in that class, I'd have turned and walked out. I'd have asked for my money back, but I would have not have
Yeah.
necessarily screamed if I didn't get it back. But I would have been letting everybody know not to return. But things such as if a firearms instructor is ever in front of the firing line when firearms are out, that is that is I'm going away and I'm going away right now. A red flag, I may not be going away, but I'm certainly not ever going again. If the firearms instructor doesn't fire a gun, I don't know that instruction is worth anything.
Oh, that's huge on my notes. When we teach, when any professional instructor teach, we are modeling behavior. People are looking at us as to what is right. They're also looking at what we let slip and get away with. So oh my God, if I utter the words, Marty, cover your ears, big boy rules.
Oh,
If you've never heard big boy rules, well, I know that's the safety rule, but we're all big boys, so this is my safety. That may be okay for you and maybe your buddy at the gravel pit. If I've got a class of 10, 15 people, and I probably don't know hardly any of them, it's like herding cats with guns because I'm herding cats with guns. So the safety rules have to be there, and the first person that's got to model those and follow them anally, stringently by the book is the instructor. Some instructors will have a live gun out in front of class and they will check it and make sure it's clear. There have been times, I won't name names, but some fairly big time instructors have had 3 people check the gun and still ND'd with it. And they'll
yes.
own up to it. It happens. Our rule and a number of other schools don't do that at all, period, end of story. Like you said, standing in front of the firing line or allowing somebody to stand in front of the firing line when they have guns out. You need to be really strict with it and model that behavior. Just like if I'm drawing a gun out of my holster to do a manipulation to show the student something, even my draw stroke has to be perfect because that's the picture in their head. My habit is not ever to demonstrate physically what I do not want a student to do, especially in entry-level classes. So if the instructor is going, well, okay, when you draw your gun from your holster, I'm going to get this is a dummy gun, okay?
Yes.
Plastic gun. And I've got solid log in the log cabin here as a backstop. Okay, well, don't do this. And don't fly cast. Well, you've just given them a picture in their head what to do. And they might label it, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. They might get the wrong label on it in an entry-level class. So the instructor has to model perfect behavior. And above all, it's got to do good gun safety. It's not, yeah, well, I'm doing this, so it's my excuse not to. The other thing you brought up has been a sore point with me for years. If the instructor doesn't fire a shot. There have been nationally well-known instructors that will not, to this day, fire a shot, or will go to matches and will not fire a shot. When I went through Law Enforcement Academy at a county level, the instructors did not fire a shot. And I think that's because there's some ego attached. And the first thing we teach students is leave your ego at home when you come to gun class. Instructors have to do that too. Instructors have to be comfortable with the fact that if I mess up, it can be a learning experience. You know, be honest. There's a YouTube video out of the guy teaching a few guys at an indoor range, and he's got a 44 Magnum or something revolver, and he cranks one off in the ceiling, and the student says, "Did you mean to do that?" He says, "Yeah."
Yeah, huh.
Yeah. If you can't find an honest instructor, you've got problems. If you feel unsafe, leave. You know, bite the money. It's cheaper than your medical deductible. Those are 2 huge things, and all come down to the same thing: gun handling and perfect behavior.
I want to get this comment in. That we'll be talking about this more tomorrow. This is kind of a Training Friday thing, but
Oh yes.
Michael says former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has died at age 67 after being shot at a speech on Friday in Nara, Japan. Used I'm guessing the assassin used a homemade gun in the shooting. Authorities confiscated several handmade pistol-like items from his apartment, police said. Um, and we'll go on. I'm going to touch on this real lightly, but I do want this to be about Training Friday. Just further proof, you cannot uninvent something. In Japan, you cannot get a firearm. Point blank, period. That's it. Civilians cannot have firearms. That's it, period. So, bad things happen. You know, this is just, for me, this is just further proof that no matter what the gun grabbers do, they're never going to stop all gun violence. So
it's violence. We have car violence and knife violence,
yes,
baseball bat violence, poison gas violence, kerosene violence. The only one it's like the thing going around the internet. One of my favorite things: Cain killed Abel with a rock.
Mm-hmm.
God did not blame the rock. You can't stop the signal. The knowledge is out there, and evil people, if they really want to hurt you, will find a way.
They will.
Look at some of the stuff that'll show all the shivs and weapons found in a prison. I mean, as controlled an environment as you can possibly imagine. They want to hurt you. They'll find a way to hurt you.
They absolutely will.
Accepting that is a difficult thing. Anyway, you can get a whole bunch of stuff out of that for a podcast at another time. But
well, and join us at noon Central Time tomorrow. We're going to be talking about that and a lot of other topics. But I want to stay kind of on training with you, Tom, because you're my training guy, man. You've forgotten more about training than I'll ever know, than most people will ever know. The next thing I want to talk about is, okay, you've made the choice, you've chosen your instructor, you're getting ready for class. What do those steps look like? And more importantly, I want to ask, let's say your first class, and it's not a bad choice for a first class, is a MAG 40, Masada Ayub Group 40. Masada Ayub, excellent instructor, and you're going to learn both on the range and in the classroom. You're going to learn a ton. Do you train up? Do you go practice shooting before you go to these events?
Again, it's to leave the ego at home. It's kind of like I'm going to join a gym, but I want to get in shape first. If you practice wrongly, if you practice incorrectly, you've just built that neuromotor pathway, what some people mistakenly call muscle memory. But it's hardwired. You've hardwired the wrong thing into your system, and you will, in fact, and in my experience, have a harder time learning whatever good technique they have to offer you. You will have to unlearn what you've done and then learn that new thing. And that takes literally triple the effort. So I wouldn't do that. Training up doesn't do you a lot of good. Now, there's some things you can do to prepare that will pay you some wonderful dividends. And I recommend a whole bunch of stuff. You've heard of the military talks about the 6 P's, the letter P. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance.
There you go. Okay. I've heard of it now.
I'm a little OCD. My friends will attest to that, and I'm proud of it. I make lists, not so much as that I won't do well without them, but I want to make sure I don't forget important stuff or stuff that I thought of that would be handy. The first place to start with the website that you found for this good instructor that you found is to look for their gear list. They will give you a gear list. Bring X number of rounds, eye protection, ear protection, ball cap, whatever it is. Follow the gear list. It's amazing that people, as computer literate as our students are these days, we get a lot of IT guys, will come in and, you just got the rounds. I just figured the rest was a suggestion. It's not a damn suggestion. The gear lists are created for a reason, and they will facilitate your learning and how fast class moves along rather than you being that guy that's always holding things up.
I've gone to exactly one class where I brought all the gear and I didn't use all the gear, and that was at the Firearms Academy of Seattle.
And that's
They
okay.
they suggested when I came and did the active shooter interdiction class that I bring knee pads. I brought the knee pads. Uh, I didn't end up using them because I could still get down on my knees fairly comfortably. So, yeah, but every other
Yeah.
bit of gear that was on the list of things to bring, I've used. And in every class, when they say bring this, you're going to use it. I've used it.
Now, when I had knees, I and Diane, we do a lot of backpacking. So I didn't want to bring anything I didn't think I needed. That's not this. I got a truck to put stuff in. Okay, I got knee pads in there. If I ever need them, even if it's not on the gear list, I can grab them on break. As far as the ammo, here's a little secret. A good instructor will not make you shoot ammo to go up to the round count. Say they tell you to bring 500 rounds. Oh my God, we've only got 450 through. It's almost the end of the day. Let's do a couple of mag dumps to get up to that 500. Good instructor is not going to waste your money.
Mm-mm.
Every round is going to count. Usually, with a few exceptions we don't need to get into, we usually overestimate a little bit. However, it is wise to bring extra ammo. If they say 500, bring 550 or 6. Because if the class as a group turns out, you're fortunate, to be pretty dialed in, safe, picking stuff up, and things go quickly, there may be time to do some cool stuff. And say if it's a moving target or shoot steel at distance or fun stuff, you may have the option to do that. So it doesn't hurt to do that.
And again, the hardest thing I've ever done with a firearm, the absolute most difficult thing I've ever done with a firearm, was done at the Firearms Academy of Seattle. Shooting a moving target while you yourself are moving. That it's not impossible. It can be done, but it's a lot harder than you think. Let me get some comments in here real quick. Michael asks, have you seen an increase in training requests since the Bruin decision? Well, the Bruin decision is less than a month old, but has there been an uptick?
Michael, thanks for the question. Haven't seen it yet because it is that recent. Let's see. I think I've done one entry-level class. We've got another one coming up tomorrow since the Bruin decision. Most people register several weeks in advance, so that hasn't come. That would be a great question in a month or two. I will tell you what we have seen, though, even before the Bruin decision, because I kept track of this being OCD, back about 10 or 15 years ago, and I've been at FAS now for about 17 years. The number of women in the beginning class, the introduction, the bullet comes out this end when you pull the lever, was about 10 to 15% pretty regularly. And we're there for reasons on our confidential questionnaire. Why are you here? I'm here with my dad, or my boyfriend made me, or something other than their own interest. Fast forward to 2022, and we've seen this now for about a year or two since the riots and the crime rate. We're seeing pretty consistently, roughly half and half, men and women.
That's
Sometimes
awesome.
a bit more than 50%, and the reasons have changed. They're there to empower themselves, and I'm proud to be able to instruct women for self-empowerment. That has changed, and I think the Bruin decision will make that more.
Charlie Chambers over on the Facebook site says, Tom, lists are wonderful, especially if experts help you build the lists.
Especially when they tell you what they want. Instructors have done this before. There are extra things you can take to make yourself comfortable. Somebody as light-skinned as I am, sunscreen. There's always sunscreen in my truck. Food, water, because there may not be water at the facility. We don't have running water at FAS. We supply cases of bottled water to our students, but always take some in case you don't know what's going on there. Snacks if you need them.
Yeah. As a diabetic, I'll say I always have snacks. Always.
Always have snacks. One thing I notice when my blood sugar gets low, I lose my words. And if I start to fumble with my mouth and my words, I'll have my other instructor take over and I'll grab a snack, and I've got one handy. All the extra stuff you can bring to make life easy. What you want to do going into class is to have as few distractions as possible, so you can pay attention to the fact that you have a gun in your hand And all your classmates have guns in their hands. So you got to do your part. They've got to do their part. And you're learning new stuff because remember, you're not going to master a whole bunch of things in one day. It's a mental challenge. Anything you can do to get the distractions out of the way, have a spare gun, lots of magazines. If your thumb is going to get tired, have a loader for your magazines. All those little things in your gear bag.
One thing that Susan and I, when we very first we went through 1 year of training, our second year we decided we were always going to do this. The range where we do our training here is about 15 miles away from Sioux Falls, so you can't really leave the range, go to get fast food, and come back.
Yeah.
And so we've always done lunch at the range, and we provide the lunch because there were enough people that skipped lunch, and by the end of the day, you could tell they were kind of out of it, and I was not comfortable around the people that had skipped lunch because you could tell their attention was slipping. I wish
I noticed that especially on day 2 of a 2-day class, on a weekend class. That's cumulative fatigue and lack of food and mental fatigue as well. It's a safety issue.
So if the range is not providing lunch and it's longer than a 4-hour class, or if there's a lunchtime in there, I don't care if you stop at Subway in the morning, bring something to eat.
Got to think about that stuff. It's the instructor's job to provide a safe environment, nurture. I hate to use this word because it sounds, I don't want to say that. Nurturing. Okay. I want my students to feel like they're learning something. If the instructor comes up and constantly is correcting you and is doing it politely and professionally, leave your ego at home and go, oh, okay, they think I'm salvageable. They think there's something can be learned. If, however, the instructor says you're safe, hey, Paul, you having a good time? That's great. Take care. I got to get down the other end of the line. They've written you off as not interested because you did not bring an empty cup to class. Remember we talked about that story?
If you would, you and I talked about that over a series of messages. But would you please relay that story?
It's from Zen Buddhism. It's a fairly famous story. It's a koan. It's meant to make you think. It's kind of a puzzle, and it's supposed to be rooted in real life. Right around the turn of the last century, there was a Zen master who had a visitor. A visitor was a visiting scholar, and he wanted to learn more about Zen. So they arranged to meet, and he comes over to the Zen master's place. And the Zen master, being a polite Zen master, serves him tea. And the scholar's going on about, well, I've read this about Zen and all this other stuff, and this is what I know, and I think this is really interesting. And the master's going, that's cool. And keeps pouring. And keeps pouring. And keeps pouring. And the dude's going, no more is going to go in. It's overflowing. And the Zen master says, and this is just like coming here. If you arrive with your cup already full of your own preconceptions and your own self-knowledge, how can I give you what I have to give you? Go to a class, and if you think the technique is utter, total bullshit, be able to explain why to yourself later. You're not going to learn it. You need to think about it, but be open to new stuff. If you already knew everything in that class, why did you spend the money and the time?
A couple comments in here. We're down at the bottom of the hour, so we got to get out of here because Amanda and Women for Gun Rights is getting ready to fire off. But let me get a couple comments in here real quick. Michael says, "Bring plenty of Red Bull," and I would say better than that.
Don't worry about there, Michael.
Better than that, get plenty of sleep the night before.
That will do you better, actually.
And Marty, I love this one. Marty says, train with the gun/equipment you carry. If you carry one gun and train with a different one, you might consider carrying your training gun. I'm a little guilty of that. I just a little. I've trained with my summertime carry gun. I've recently, I need to go back and I need to take more classes because I've changed my carry gun. For a very long time, my carry gun was a Glock Model 23. That is the mid-size 40 caliber Glock. And I've trained with that through many courses. That's my wintertime carry gun. It's very easy to conceal in the winter when you've got a lot of layers. My summertime carry gun until this year was a Smith & Wesson Shield. I've trained with that. I don't do nearly as good as I do with the Glock. I think it's honestly not as good of a firearm as the Glock is. I need to go back and do some more training though, because my new carry gun, it's on my hip right now, but I'm not going to bring it out and show you because YouTube freaks out about it. My new carry gun is a Car CM9 that I've got a Crimson Trace laser grip attached to. I need to go do some training with that. I used that for the South Dakota Enhanced Concealed Carry class I took this week and did very well with it. But that's to call that a training class is a bit of a stretch. It was
The typical weekend class runs 400 to 500 rounds, depending on the instructor. Do you really want to shoot in 2 days 500 rounds with a little tiny gun that's really going to hurt your hand, which will interfere with your learning? You learn on my training gun, usually the 4 or 5 inch. I practice with my carry gun.
Yeah, I you know, I think there's something to that. That's one of the reasons I like Glock so much is because a Glock is a Glock is a Glock. A 9, the 40, the 45, they all have the same operation. The micro size, the mid size, the full size, they all have the same operations. If you can work a Glock 17, which is the most common one, I think, you can work them all. That's kind of why I like Glocks. And you know what? We're already a little bit over, but I want to take about 3 minutes, and I'm going to put a limit on this. I want Tom's opinion. I'm going to give you mine real fast, then I want Tom's opinion. Safeties on handguns. I personally, I've never, ever, I personally have never bought a handgun with a safety on it simply because that's one more thing that's going to fail when your adrenaline is screaming through your body, when you absolutely positively have to have that shot go off right now. I will dare and damn to you, that's when you're going to forget that thumb safety. That's when you're not going to properly engage that grip safety. That's when things are going to go wrong. I prefer the Glock where there's one safety, and that's a drop safety, and that's it. Tom,
my answer is a very technical, it depends. And that's my short form answer real quick, because I know you're tight on time. I am a 1911 guy. With the short trigger press and relatively light trigger press of a 1911, I absolutely believe in thumb safeties. And I assume you're talking about deliberate manual safeties, not the passive safeties. If you're going to carry a 1911, absolutely you want a thumb safety, and I'm not aware of any that are made any other way. If you've got a longer trigger press like the car, revolver, that sort of thing, you've got that layer. If you have a grip safety, you have to worry about having a proper grip. That's a matter of training. So it depends, but practice with it a lot. Practice with it a lot.
Yeah. Marty, I get 2 comments in here and we got to go. Marty says, really, Paul, I thought it was a silver revolver. Well, that's another story we don't have time to get into today, but I've never actually owned a silver revolver in my life. Been accused of it once. Michael says, no safeties for CCW and no SA, meaning I think he's meaning single action. Yeah.
I believe that. Like I say, I will happily disagree with you, Michael. You know, run what you got, but practice with it.
All right. Well, Tom, on our way out the door, man, is there anything you want to plug that's going on at the Firearms Academy of Seattle?
Thanks for that, Paul. In August, because we're burning through July, we've got a couple of classes. August is our guest instructor month. We do a lot of that besides our usual entry-level stuff. And I wrote the names down because I'm old and I'm forgetful. We have Jared Reston for 3 days in mid-August doing a practical pistol and performance handgun. And then we have we have John Farnham coming for his advanced urban rifle. I've taken that class a couple of times. Awesome, awesome urban rifle class. John, if you've never met John Farnham, he's kind of like the warrior poet. And I'll leave it at that. But that's what's going on at FAS. www.firearmsacademy.com. Take a look. We have a website.
Very cool. All right. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to talk with us today, and for skipping fishing today, Tom.
Yeah.
So, and you're going to join us again in 2 weeks, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching and commenting, and we will see you tomorrow at noon Central Time. Thanks, everybody.